Welcome to my short presentation on the adaptation of the Living Lab approach to dementia care. My name is Felix Bühler. I'm a researcher at the University of Halle in Germany, and today I'll be presenting results from a qualitative study conducted in 2022. On behalf of all my co-authors, I declare that we have no conflict of interest relating to this research. Now, first off, why did we conduct this study? We know that there is an evidence practice gap in healthcare. For example, research results are only translated slowly and incompletely into practice. Knowledge translation sums up different strategies aiming to bridge this gap between practice and research. We also know that interactive knowledge translation works a lot better than unidirectional knowledge translation. Interactive knowledge translation, which is depicted here, focuses on exchange and collaboration between care professionals, researchers, and patients, while with unidirectional knowledge translation, information only flows in one direction. Now, academic practice partnerships are one possibility to conduct knowledge translation interactively and to close the evidence practice gap. In these partnerships, care professionals and researchers collaborate on joint projects, for instance on joint research. Our aim was to implement such an academic practice partnership based on the Living Lab approach in long-term dementia care in Germany and to involve stakeholders in the adaptation of this approach, which is why we conducted the study. In our study, we therefore aim to explore stakeholders' perspectives on the implementation of a research partnership in long-term dementia care. We focused on three aspects of collaboration. First, what are current preconditions for collaboration in such a research partnership? Second, how should this partnership be designed in order to allow for joint research? And third, how can people with dementia participate? We formed three stakeholder groups, which I'll show you in the next slide, and we conducted digital focus groups, a kind of group interview, and individual interviews with representatives from these three stakeholder groups. All interviews were analyzed according to a thematic framework analysis, and we obtained ethical approval prior to the study. This slide shows the three stakeholder groups I mentioned earlier, as well as our participants. In total, 35 people participated in 10 focus groups and 5 individual interviews. In the first group, care professionals, head nurses, and nursing home CEOs participated. For the second group, we recruited people with dementia, informal carers, dementia representatives, and nursing home residents. And in the third group, care and nursing researchers participated. We identified 5 main themes relating to different stages and aspects of academic practice partnerships, and I'd like to present some of our key findings. First, let's start with preconditions and access. We found out that care professionals come into little contact with research in their day-to-day work and have little experience of working together with researchers. However, when they do come into contact with research, they tend to perceive it as inaccessible, as something that subjects them to its directives while remaining inaccessible to them. Care professionals presented a rather passive role towards research, as indicated by the first quote from a care professional. We just don't think about it, we do what we're told. However, our participants considered a common language an opportunity for care professionals to access the collaboration, and they agreed that it should be the practice language, which means that researchers should be able to communicate via the practice language in order to facilitate collaboration. The language of healthcare, of nursing must be spoken, is how one participant put it. The second theme revolves around expectations. All participants considered collaboration in an academic practice partnership a mutual opportunity, but expectations differed. Care professionals primarily expected the collaboration to result in a tangible benefit to patient care, as illustrated by a quote from a nursing manager. "Well, I want to get something out of it, you see. What I want is a result." Researchers, on the other hand, mainly expected the collaboration to allow for data collection and testing of research methods. Agreeing on shared and mutually supported goals was considered challenging but crucial to successful collaboration. What you want and what we deliver, there is friction along the way, is how one researcher described the potential discrepancy in expectations. The third theme is called shaping the collaboration. Given the aim of joint research, participants agreed that researchers should take the lead in shaping the collaboration, but in doing so should adapt to care professionals' needs, for instance in terms of working hours, media use, or preferred methods of communication. I would say it's the mission of research to move towards practice, was one participant's advice. Researchers were expected to create tangible opportunities for care professionals to get involved in the joint research projects. What they need is a clear roadmap, this and that, clear statements, is how one participant described the way that staff might be able to participate. Another key finding was that care professionals hoped to receive support from researchers in implementing the research results, as illustrated by a quote, "It's important that support is also provided for the implementation process." Implementation was considered especially challenging, and researchers were expected to be knowledgeable with regard to implementation of research results. The fourth theme concerns the so-called linking pins, the representatives from care practice and research, represented by the two meeples you already know from the first slide. According to our participants, the linking pins should work together as equals and should possess pronounced social and communication skills. Researchers taking on this role may benefit from first-hand experience in nursing to gain access to the field and establish relationships with residents and staff. Besides, they needed to be approachable. One participant specified that whoever comes to us should not be seen as a foreigner. Care professionals acting as practice-based linking pins should be familiar with the entire care organization and maintain good relationships with staff, residents, and relatives in order to enable participation of all stakeholder groups. The fifth and final theme revolves around participation. For people with dementia, opportunities to participate in the collaboration should be actively enabled and accessibly designed. Our participants recommended the use of familiar people and familiar occasions. A cup of coffee where you get to know each other, it must be very easily accessible, is what one participant considered a suitable approach. People with dementia also emphasized that to participate, they needed positive environments and positive interactions, characterized by acceptance and benevolence. Acceptance, very important. Radical acceptance of all things present, is how one participant with dementia put it. Finally, acknowledging their research interests was considered to increase the likelihood of people with dementia's participation. They were especially interested in research relating to non-pharmacological interventions and person-centered care. For example, one participant said that, "I'd like to see research focusing more on psychosocial, psychological aspects." We used stakeholder statements from our study to guide the implementation of the Living Lab Dementia, which is currently under investigation in Germany. This slide illustrates the Living Lab Dementia. Within the Living Lab Dementia, care professionals, researchers, people with dementia and their relatives collaborate on joint research projects on long-term dementia care. The two linking pins are at the center of the collaboration as they are charged with stimulating and conducting the joint research projects. We hope the findings presented here are useful for all those aiming to get involved in research partnerships or joint research projects, especially with people with dementia. Now, thank you for your attention, and please feel free to contact me in case of questions or comments.